The right book in the hands of the willing can change a life, inspire a spirit, and give hope to the reader. Just like the Right Stuff reality TV show will make one writer's dream come true. It will change that writer's life and inspire others to follow in their success. There's nothing harder than not knowing the next step after you've finally written your book. If you're like me, it took years to struggle through developing the characters, plot, and the correct way to present my book, The Mark of a Druid, to the world. My name is Rhonda R. Carpenter, and I'm ecstatic that Cyrus A. Webb has come up with this show. I'm looking forward to tuning in and following the authors on their journey. The drama, the joy, and the growing pains for each author will have me on the edge of my seat, I'm sure. Now, here's a show I can relate to. I'll be glued to the tube for every installment of The Right Stuff. Won't you join me in spreading the word about literacy and donate to the project? Be a part of promoting literacy all over the globe. Who has the right stuff? You'll have to tune in to find out.
That was best-selling author Stuart Woods sharing some of the keys to his success. Woods is also one of our literary legends we are honoring this year and in 2010. You can find out about Mr. Woods by going to www.stuartwoods.com. That's www.stuartwoods.com. You can also find out about all of our honorees this year by going to www.literarylegends2009.com. Whether we are a parent, guardian, or just have children around us, we should be invested in them being their best in a world that sometimes doesn't make that easy. Author and activist Nesta Aharoni has become a friend and ally that is using her skills to encourage individuals around the world. Her book, My Goodness, My Kids, is just what many need in order to make a difference. Listen to her advice here, and when we come back, I'll tell you how you can find out more. What does it mean today to be a good parent? And in a world that's so selfish, how can we help our children to appreciate what they have and be the best that they can be? Those are subjects we're going to be discussing, as well as letting you know how you can get your copy of the book. We're very glad to have Nesta with us. Nesta, how are you doing today?
Very well. Thank you, Cyrus. Pleasure to be here.
Well, very glad to have you, Nesta. I really enjoyed you with when you were with us for the Business of Books discussion. It's hard to believe it's been 5 months ago. It was in May when you were last with us. But I really thought this month we're focusing a lot on education, especially since a lot of young people are going back to school this month. We thought it was appropriate to have you back to discuss your book individually. There's a lot we want to cover. Before we do that, though, Nesta, for those who may have missed you in May, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
I am a writer and author. I've been in the editing business and the publishing business for many years. Started a magazine here in San Diego that won an award-winning prize for Best Small Business in San Diego. Excuse me, and then took over as managing editor for another magazine for many years. But my focus now is on inspiring parents to focus on building character and integrity in their children, because if we each take care of business in our own homes, I do believe the world can be a kinder, safer place for all of us.
Very good point, and that's exactly why we wanted you back to discuss your book, My Goodness, My Kids, Cultivating Decency in a Dangerous World. We're going to be giving out your website throughout the program, Nesta. For those that have pen and paper now, it's grassrootspublishinggroup.com. It's where you can find out more information about Nesta and the book. She's also an award-winning author. The book has gotten a lot of praise, including getting this year the Mom's Choice Award. So we definitely want to say congratulations, Nesta, on that. Now, there are 5 topics, Nesta, that I chose that I would like us to touch on briefly during this discussion. And then, of course, this will just tease our listeners a little bit so when they get their copy, they can find out what else is in the book. But the 5 topics that I thought about were, first of all, starting young. The second was setting the example. The third being religion. The fourth being punishment. and the fifth, separation. I thought those 5 would be good because we have not only those young people who are going to school, but also, of course, college kids that have started or may be preparing for their last year. So it's a lot of great information we'll cover. I want to start this discussion, though, Nesta. On page number 179, we also are going to be ending on this page as well. For those who have the book, on page 179, there's a passage there I want to share now, and also when we end the discussion, I think it's appropriate that we come back to it. On page 179, the first paragraph there says, of course we want our children to be professionally successful, well-liked, financially independent, and happy. But the world will benefit most from children who are raised primarily to be good. Good children grow into individuals who bring humanity and security to a fragile world. When we start with this first topic, Nesta, of starting young, what does it mean, first of all, for a child to be good? What is considered a good child?
Well, there are many qualities that make up a good child, but if I had to choose one to start off this discussion, I would say that it is a child who learns to develop empathy. And that means, in the saying of one wit, a person who, or child, who is capable of feeling your pain in his or her heart. And I think with children are raised to understand that everything they do, whether it's something good or something bad, affects all of the other people around them in a ripple effect. That's very, very important. If a child, for example, shares a cookie with another child, then that ripples out into a character building moment for the parent to praise them and tell them how kind they were and how generous. If that same child takes a cookie away from another child, that's another opportunity for that child to build, for that parent, to build character in that children. There are lessons to be learned there. Mm-hmm. To me, empathy is the most important quality we can build in our children, and I think if you look at the Columbine shooters as an example, that takes lack of empathy to its absolute extreme.
Exactly. That's a very good point. Now, as I mentioned, this first topic is starting young. Chapter 29, for those, again, who are either taking notes or have the book, the page number is page 165. This is an important part to me, and the reason why I wanted to start here is because a lot of times there are, now I have to admit, as a full disclosure, our regular listeners know, I tell people all the time I don't have any children myself. I do have a nephew, but I don't have any children myself. So I'm not saying anything that I personally know from my own experience with children. But just from my experience of being around different individuals who do have children, they always talk about how they wish they had done this or that when their child was younger because they feel like that would have affected them growing up. You seem to validate that thought, Nesta, with your book, especially in Chapter 29, in the chapter entitled Start Young, because you ask the question quite simply, would you rather deal or have to discipline a teenager, or would you rather have to discipline a toddler and teach them? Talk to us a little bit about the benefits of starting young when it comes to instilling things in our children.
Well, the biggest